Hi, I'm Marianne Pelletier of the Stoppel Analytics Group, and I'm here to introduce Wilfred Bailey, our data management associate, who is always showing us new tools and techniques. This is a re-record of our live water cooler chat because I forgot to press the record button. So Wilfred, tell us what we're going to look at today.
Today, we're going to be talking about streamlining workflows with Power Automate. This is very informal. We had questions the last time, so Marianne may likely be asking questions the second round. My background is in computer programming, and I work for Stoppel Analytics Group. So we're going to be explaining what Power Automate does, as well as describe the different versions of Power Automate. We will talk about connectors and actions, and the benefits and barriers when using Power Automate. We'll also talk about how we can overcome those barriers. We'll be providing some resources and give examples at the end. So let's begin. Explaining Power Automate. So imagine Microsoft Power Automate as a robot assistant for your tasks. It can connect to different apps and services that you use, like email, Teams, or social media. You set up the rules, and then Power Automate can automatically do things for you, like sending notifications, filing, documents, or posting updates. It's like creating a to-do list for your apps, but they do the work themselves.
So that's my question. That was my first question, right? Does Power Automate have to work only with Microsoft products, or can I get it to work with things like Razor's Edge, NXT, or Salesforce?
You can get it to work with a number of other applications and not just simply Microsoft. So there's two versions of Power Automate. One is the Cloud Power Automate, and this is the online application that automates tasks across various cloud-based internet applications and services like Dropbox, Gmail, and other online tools. And then there's the Desktop Power Automate. Now, this offline application automates tasks specifically on your local computer. It interacts with desktop applications and programs you have installed. Now, these two can work together. You can use Cloud Power Automate for online tasks, and then you can use the Desktop Power Automate for automating things on your local machine. You can even connect workflows between the two for a more comprehensive automation solution. Now, going forward in this presentation, we're going to be focusing on the Cloud Power Automate as opposed to the desktop version. So Power Automate is able to connect to over 300 applications. And you also have the ability to create custom connectors as well. So each connector is going to have its own actions that it will allow you to take within Power Automate. So here, this is an example of how actions work within Power Automate. This connector is specific for the Razor's Edge events. When you select the connector, it then gives you a list of actions that you can choose from. Notice within this list of actions, I can select List Event Participants. This will give me a list of all the people who are registered for the selected event. I can also select Update a Participant. So imagine a workflow where you are greeting individuals at an event. You do a search for their name on the list of participants, and then you immediately update them to mark them as attended. You don't have to keep track of a sheet that you later have to import.
This, I think, is the cool part, right? And so this exercise, I picture me on an iPad and I'm talking to Power Automate in the cloud, but it's also updating Power Automate back in my office. So my boss knows when the majority of people have shown up and it's time to come out, you know, and say hi to everybody. You know what I mean? Or bring the president out or the trustees or whatever.
That's correct. You can have notifications set up, and if your Power Automate is able to connect to your CRM, it can actually update the application in real time.
Okay. Of course, there's security concerns around that.
Yes, there are. And in regards to security, your IT department would know best about how they want to proceed.
Okay, thanks.
So benefits with using Power Automate. Well, one, it saves you time. By automating repetitive tasks, Power Automate frees you up to focus on more important things. If you find yourself saying the phrase, "It's so simple, a monkey can do it," while doing a particular task, then you just found yourself a great use case for Power Automate. Boost productivity. With less time spent on mundane tasks, you and your team can be more productive doing other things that require human oversight. Connects easily with other apps. Power Automate integrates with a wide range of Microsoft and non-Microsoft applications, allowing you to automate tasks across different tools that you use every day. For templates and customization, Power Automate comes with a variety of pre-built templates that you can use to get started quickly, but it also offers the flexibility to create custom workflows to meet specific needs.
So this, I think, was the section where in the chat, I'm standing in for everybody who was at our live event. This is the section where someone put up in chat, I have a gift agreement that has to go around to get edited, then it has to go around to get approved. And that sounds like, so, and you were talking about the template and the customization of the approval process can all be connected this way.
Yes, we're actually going to go more in depth in an example specific about templates, but it is very easy to do in Power Automate, and depending on how you use it, it can be very powerful.
Cool.
Easy to use, the drag and drop interface makes it user-friendly, even for those without coding experience. So it'll also reduce errors. Manual tasks are prone to mistakes, but Power Automate follows your set rules consistently, minimizing errors. And improves communication. Automate notifications and approvals to keep everyone informed and on the same page. Please note, I am not here to sell you Power Automate, so I have no problem covering the next part, which is going to be the barriers with Power Automate. One is the learning curve. Although Power Automate is designed to be user-friendly, there is still a learning curve, especially for those who are not familiar with automation concepts or the specific logic required to set up effective flows. Users need to understand how triggers and actions work within the context of their specific needs. Triggers is how a Power Automate workflow actually begins. It wasn't one of the things that we covered, but we did discuss it via a question. There are 3 triggers. One is a manual trigger, which is you run it whenever you need it to be run. Another can be set up on a schedule so that it runs at a particular time or recurring time. And the last trigger is event-based, which is where it can be connected to a number of other applications. And when one application does something, it then triggers the Power Automate workflow to continue.
So like that's a situation where they finish editing a gift agreement and the finish button gets hit, and that's a trigger to forward to the right people for approval. That kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, and in the case of the event where we're doing the registration, when they submit that they're attended, that submission could then be the trigger that kicks off another workflow, such as check to see how many are attended, and when a certain percentage is reached, it will then send a notification to the
president's
VIP.
office. Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Fabulous.
For complexity of workflows, while Power Automate boasts a user-friendly interface, building complex workflows with many steps and conditions can get challenging. It requires careful planning and a good understanding of the various triggers, actions, and connectors available. Advanced workflows might require knowledge of conditional logic, looping, and data manipulation, which can be overwhelming for beginners. Copilot AI will not assist with complex workflow, at least not currently. For integration limitations, while Power Automate offers a wide range of connectors, there might not be a direct connection for every specific application or service you need. This can limit its usefulness if critical organizational tools are not supported or require extensive customization to integrate. For security and compliance concerns, Power Automate connects to various data sources and applications, ensuring data security and compliance with regulations like GDPR or HIPAA. When using automation can be a concern. Data might need to pass between different services, and maintaining the security of this data during transit and storage must be managed correctly. Your IT division may greatly impact how effectively you can automate tasks which may be limited by their own internal security standards. Maintenance and updates. Maintaining and updating flows over time as business processes and systems evolve can require significant ongoing effort. Automations may break if connected applications are updated or if changes are made to the underlying data structures.
So don't lay off the
Debugging,
programmer who installs it.
yes. That's going to basically be when certain applications are updated, it may then in turnaround affect the way the flow works. And in one case, Power Automate itself updated to a new version that Microsoft automatically rolled out simply because it is a cloud application that we're referring to as opposed to the desktop. And as a result of Power Automate itself updating, there's an action that had an attachment that got mailed out, and that attachment portion broke. And the only resolution to it was to literally roll back Power Automate to the older version. Yeah. So there's many ways where some part of the flow can break. So as things are updated, it's very good to have someone who is able to figure that out.
Yes. Cool.
Debugging and troubleshooting when errors occur in automated workflows, especially when the workflows involve multiple systems and data formats. Pinpointing the exact issue can be tricky, especially in complex situations. You'll need to have a good understanding of the workflow logic and the connected applications to effectively troubleshoot. User adoption. Implementing automation can significantly alter existing workflows. Resistance to change is a common barrier in any digital transformation effort. Getting users to adopt new tools and change their workflows to integrate automation who are accustomed to older methods or have concerns about job security will need to be addressed through clear communication and training. And finally, cost management. While Power Automate is included for free in many Microsoft 365 subscriptions, there are limitations on the number of runs and the type of features that are available at different subscription levels. For large-scale implementations, the cost can increase significantly, particularly if premium connectors or additional runs are required. So I won't be able to tell you how much automation can cost you, but I can give you a formula that you can use to help determine your return on investment for automation. So we start off by calculating the yearly salary of the employee who accomplishes tasks on an hourly wage. You multiply that by the hours spent to accomplish said task that can be automated for the entire year. Now this will equal the base rate of the yearly cost to accomplish said tasks, as well as the required man hours. Your total should be the starting point to compare your return on investment for automation. For instance, let's take an employee who makes $30,000 a year. Their hourly rate is approximately $15 an hour. And let's say it takes them 3 hours a week to accomplish a repetitive task. So that ends up being 156 hours for the year. So $15 times 156 hours, we're going to end up with $2,340. So we're paying $2,340 as well as benefits, as wasting 156 man hours a year just to accomplish this one specific task. The only difference is that automation scales. So as the workload increases, you won't be losing additional money or time on that process. Also, you don't want to forget to include the costs for development and training when you're looking at implementing automation.
So in our blog post that's coming up after with the newsletter that was inspired by this water cooler chat, Wilfred, I talked about how to pick the right tools, and the tools must save time. They must be usable by the users. And the return on investment is key, but the setup time, right? The cost of setup and implementation, as you just mentioned, and can sometimes be thought of as too expensive. It's easier to do it by hand than it is to set up the new tool. But the setup time is a one-time cost, and the savings are perpetual. I like that.
Yes, that's correct. It's harder to explain return on investment to leadership, especially if they're not technical, because they're trying to wrap their heads around, especially when you're regarding fundraising, where the frontline development officers tend to be seen as being more the focus for return on investment.
Right.
So being able to have a way where you can better break down how this investment can work and be effective, and why it should warrant them to invest into it would help in the long run.
Yeah. Fabulous.
So for overcoming barriers, some of the things that we suggest, one is to start simple. So begin with automating basic repetitive tasks to gain confidence and experience with automation. Plan your workflows. And to do that, so before building complex automation, you want to map out the steps, the triggers, and the desired outcomes clearly. Utilize your resources. Microsoft offers extensive documentation, tutorials, and community forums to help you learn and troubleshoot issues. You want to focus on user adoption. So ensure clear communication and training for your team to promote understanding and acceptance of the automated processes, because if they don't use the process, then it kind of negates the whole point to getting it set up. And the last is seeking professional help. For complex automation needs, consider consulting with experienced Power Automate developers who can design and implement robust workflows. Speaking of professional help, this segues us to a word from our sponsor, StopHell Analytics Group. If you are in need of help with improving your fundraising efforts through custom analytics, data processing, training, business intelligence, and automation to include Power Automate, please consider using StopHell Analytics. Founded in 2012 with team members who have a combined total of over 100 years of experience in fundraising. Now, back to our scheduled program. There are a number of templates available from Microsoft that can be used for Power Automate. These templates are like files, so you can make copies of it to your computer and then log into the connectors using your credentials. You can also make modifications to the templates specific for your use case. And another is the Copilot, which is an AI add-on to Power Automate that you can use to assist with creating actions and flows. It can even explain what an action does. Just remember, Copilot will not assist you if your workflow is complex. I opened one of my flows and Copilot asked if it could help me clean my workflow up. I told it yes, because I'll take any help wherever I can get it. When Copilot scanned my workflow, it responded that my workflow was too complex for it to help me. And that was the end of that. So much for modern technology. So this is going to be an example of one of the ways that we have used Power Automate. This example does not connect to a CRM, so anyone can use it. In this instance, the requirement was to receive all the data necessary from the development officer to generate a draft contract for the donor to sign. Microsoft Forms was used to get this data. Power Automate then took the data that was submitted and put it into a Word template. This template was then emailed to the gift officer using Outlook. A copy of the pledge agreement was sent back to the development officer as a PDF, and an entry was added into Smartsheet to be worked by the gift agreement officer and records and gifts.
I'm curious, I've never seen Microsoft Forms before you showed us this. So I'm curious about whether or not it's in our subscription under Office 365. So I'm going to go look.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I were not a person watching this video, I'd feel the same way.
So this is an example of the Microsoft form that's being used to take in data. In this case, we're really looking to get all the data that's going to be required in order to create the draft contract, meaning the gift agreement officer isn't going to have to go back to the development officer to say something was missed. Instead of Microsoft Forms, you can use Power Apps, which is a more powerful version, as well as it will give you more flexibility when you're working with Power Automate. So when the development officer goes and fills out this form, those values are then taken in by Power Automate, which opens up the template from Word. So this is an example of the template. The variables are the ones that are highlighted in orange, and they are going to be replaced with the values that were submitted from Microsoft Forms. The Word document with the updated values are then emailed to the gift agreement officer as a draft for the contract. And the gift agreement officer only needs to make minor changes at that time before they are ready to send it forward to legal for review. Initially, this would have gone back and forth with the development officer and the gift agreement officer because the development officer would invariably omit information. Oh, one moment. There we go. So this would go back and forth.
And keep the email in his box while he's traveling. Yes.
Yes, I know that the person could edit this part out.
Okay.
This information would go back and forth with the development officer and the gift agreement officer because the development officer would invariably omit information that was necessary for the gift agreement officer to process before sending it to legal. Another example that we're currently working on is a report for the VSC survey. In this instance, we're looking to receive exported data that is coming out and to have Power Automate process it in a way to create a report that can be sent back to the client with an accurate survey.
Yeah, the VSC changes every year. So this is a situation where our handy programmer would just make the tweaks, the 3 or 4 tweaks or however many there are, to say this is how the VSC wants to see them this year.
Exactly. So in this case, that template would basically be the Excel sheet that would have all of the formulas set up. So for each year, that formula would be updated. And then what would happen is you would take the data that comes in. And so as the data comes in, it gets plugged into Excel. And once it gets plugged into Excel, the graphs and all of the formulas would just work automatically because it's now pulling from the data set. And no additional changes would have to be made once you make that one change or that one update.
That's fabulous, because those of us who have to do, I mean, Greg has clients who hire him every year to do hit their VSC because it's nitpicky and it requires a lot of different data sorted a lot of different ways.
Yes, and the focus then would be on making sure you're getting the same data out in terms of the same types of data, like the donor name, the gift information, all of the values that's needed for it to be populated.
Great. This looks like a great dashboard too.
Yeah. Now, although I'm going to list some examples on this slide, I believe it's an important thing to take away that the only limitation to what you can do is your imagination. Although it's true that Power Automate can't do everything that you may imagine, I will say that it is easier to imagine big and then make concessions than to think small and limit yourself. Power Automate can fill the gaps if your CRM has shortcomings. If your CRM does not allow custom reports, you can use Power Automate. If your CRM does not allow notifications, you can use Power Automate. If your CRM doesn't allow flexible mailings, you can use Power Automate.
Or feeding to MailChimp. Yep.
And did you want to speak about the prospect shopping list?
Oh, right. So one of the things that we talked about live is like, let's say you've got your screening data in there, you've got a dashboard, you've got all those prospects that are standing out there, but a gift officer goes to visit a prospect. The prospect, Power Automate can take that prospect off of that dashboard and put the prospect back on if the gift officer comes back and says, I didn't get to speak to him. Or disqualify, so it can be much more live time. Like at any given time, you can know how many prospects gift officers are working, how many prospects are waiting in the shopping mall, so to speak, and then where everybody is in the different stages. The other thing is the triggers. Because you can do triggers, you can say this prospect has been languishing in this gift officer's pool for 90 days. And then you can know, like if you know where the gift officer is going to travel, you can know automatically, well, the gift officer hasn't traveled there yet. Or you can say, what's going on? It's great.
Yes. So one of the things that came up was notifications. Power Automate does connect to Teams. It also connects to Outlook. And depending on what you may be using for your team for project management, if there is a connection with Power Automate is able to do notifications for a variety of things. One of the things you can use for in Teams is there are approvals. So Power Automate is able to send out an approval to a number of people or a specific individual. And it can be set up where it either wants approval from everyone or from one of the group to approve it that it sends it to before it then continues on with the workflow or possibly even trigger a new one. So notifications are very flexible depending on what you may be needing it for. It's also useful too for events, donor profile. So that goes into having the reports that are specific or customized for your own needs, where you can have Power Automate grab information from the donor, whether it's their picture, their giving, etc., and it calculates it and displays it in the way that is useful to you or your frontline efforts in order to meet your needs.
I think you're right that it's bringing up an example. The president's office prefers to see reports with last name, comma, first name, but gift officers prefer to see reports as full name listed, right? Anytime you have a but I'm different kind of a thing, you can accommodate it in Power Automate. I would for someone at that level, but then it becomes political after that.
Yes. And even with the donor profiles, it can be set up where as a development officer, you could, if you keep track of it within your CRM, you can have it pull down their likes, their dislikes, their affinity for the different colleges they give to, etc. And all of this will assist the development officer when they go to have conversations with them.
Oh, that's true. It can keep an eye on their social media and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I like it.
That is going to be it for our water cooler presentation. And up here is our contact information if you should ever need to use our services. And there was also a handout available for the same topic as well.
So thanks for re-recording this with me, Wilfred. I think the most important piece is that it's not that it's impossible to do, it's that being aware that something can be done, and knowing that this is the problem that I have, right? It's not that these gift officers take too long with this gift agreement. It's that the process of approving gift agreements is not working for people who have to travel all the time, right? So
Yes.
if I can work on Teams on my phone and do approvals, I can get it done, right? And
Yes.
then, as you said at the start of your presentation, it's about cooperation.
Correct.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching our video. And thank you, Wilfred, for showing us this nifty new tool.
All right. You all have a wonderful day.